My name's Amanda Trudell, and I'm an active 32-year-old. I live life by producing videos and riding my horse. 7 months ago, I was diagnosed with a severe back strain, only to find out that a little too late in the game, I had a herniated disc between my L5 and S1 vertebrae. What that means is that I have severe pain that comes from my hip all the way down the right side, down to my foot. And if I don't feel like I'm being stabbed with a knife or poked with a gazillion needles, I have this crazy numbing tingling that never goes away. And the worst of all of it is when a muscle spasm hits, and that's just a slight movement just too far, and it will literally knock me to my knees because the voltage that just runs up and down my body, it sucks. And what I've learned is that the disc getting protruded outside of the vertebrae is pushing up against my nerves, and that's what caused this sciatica, is some people I've heard refer to it. And it's awful. The past 7 months have not been fun. I can't ride my horse. I have to ask for help to even tie my shoes. That's not exactly what I would call living, but life happens. Sometimes we just have to go through hell just a little longer till we come out on the other side. But the worst part is that just a few weeks ago, insurance denied my need for surgery because they felt it was not medically necessary. I can't even tell you how maddening that is. I've paid into insurance my entire working career and have hardly used it because I'm a healthy person. I have a high deductible plan because I don't need that kind of health coverage. I just do my routine stuff and I'm good to go. But now when I need it, I'm being told by somebody else that, sorry, this doesn't apply to you, try something else. I've come to realize how messed up our medical system is and how we are not in control of our own health. As a result, I've put together a list of things I wish I would have known going through my journey. Hopefully, it can help somebody else. I'm not a medical professional, and this is purely based on the things that I've gone through, and I just wish I would have known. So hopefully this list can help somebody else navigate their situation a little bit better than what I had to put up with for the last 7 months. Number 1, listen to your body and act fast. I'm not saying run to a doctor as soon as something hurts immediately. I've hurt my back several times throughout my life, and it takes some rest and some ibuprofen, and within a few days there's usually some improvement. When there wasn't, that's when I should have gone to see a doctor. Which brings me to my next point. Get x-rays. I have a high deductible plan and I have never met my deductible. So when a doctor asks me, do you want to get x-rays? All I see are dollar signs rolling out of my pocket. And I ask, what's it going to tell you? Do I need them? And they give me a, no, I don't want to pay for something that's going to be useless. Why would I do that? Well, let me tell you why. Get an MRI. Remember what I said about the x-ray? Well, really good doctors can speculate that you have a pinched nerve based on an x-ray, but you need an MRI in order to look at the soft tissue, which is a disc, and then perhaps tell you if it's bulging and pinching the nerve. Well, it's how insurance works. You have to get an x-ray in order to get an MRI. So buck up and pay the money so you can get both of those things done, get the proper diagnosis, and get a timestamp on your injury in order to have medical documentation saying that you have a herniated disc more than just symptoms. Do physical therapy as soon as possible. Get ready to spend more dollars because it takes money and it takes time. But here's the deal. If there's a better way to fix your body and a more conservative means than surgery, you should absolutely want to do that first. And then, once you've gone through it and it doesn't work, you can say you've checked the box when it comes to those insurance hurdles. I'll tell you, apparently, my number one reason why I have not been able to get surgery for my herniation is because I didn't do physical therapy with an actual physical therapist. We'll get more into those details later, but do the physical therapy and then be able to move through this whole process a lot faster. Call your insurance company. If surgery is even a mention, call and find out from them directly what you need to do and how you need to do it in order to get to the end goal. If you can resolve it before that with physical therapy or whatever, that's great. What I've also learned is that doctors are not insurance experts. They work around it, so they generally know how things work, but you can't rely on them to know how your policy works because every insurance company and every policy is different. Find out from your insurance company directly. The other part of this is that time is your enemy when you're in pain. So when you're going through this process, you're waiting for the next step from the next person and the next step from the next person. But if you'd have called your insurance company from the get-go, you would have figured out a long time ago all the steps that you needed to get to have that resolution at the end. Call your insurance company and get it figured out way before you ever need to. And finally, advocate for yourself. This crap is hard. And then when you're trying to navigate all this medical stuff when you're in pain, it's not fun, let alone hard to get your mind to wrap around it all. It would be a lot easier just to go hide in a hole, but no one will care about your health as much as you do. So you have to buck up, you have to go make those phone calls, figure out what your rights are, and make your own health plan in order to move forward. It'd be nice to believe that in a privatized healthcare system that everything would just move seamlessly through and we could just get navigated from one piece to the next, but that's not how it works. And unfortunately, if I'd been just a little more proactive about making those phone calls, maybe I wouldn't be waiting as long to get the care that I need. So truly, fight for yourself. It's going to be worth it. And by the time you get through months of this stuff, if you can condense that at all, you will appreciate the effort that you put in then. The other thing that I'd like to add is while advocating for yourself, that doesn't mean be a jerk. There's real people that sit behind every desk, that push every piece of paper, that see every patient. Yeah, you have to advocate and be firm, but that doesn't give you license to go in there with guns blazing and just being a bad human, because that's not going to help you either. The big takeaway is to play the game early and do whatever it takes to make your life easier in the meantime. In the description below, I've created a document as a resource for you through your journey with a herniated disc. I'd also like to talk you through some tools that have been helpful for me in making my life easier as well, starting with my TENS machine. This thing has been a lifesaver from the very get-go when it comes to muscle spasms and that kind of stuff. Basically, it sends an electrical signal into my body and it helps relax the muscles. I pretty much wear it 24/7 now because I never know when one of these episodes are going to strike, and it helps give me pretty quick relief. Another item would be a long-handled grabber. This is a pride point for a 32-year-old that I have to pick up my socks with a grabber tool, but it has also been a lifesaver because slight bending can often send me into a muscle spasm, and that royally sucks. Another item would be a wedge for underneath my knees. I stand for 8 hours a day at work. Sitting gives me zero relief. Actually, it can cause me to go into spasms. So I tend to lay flat or I stand, but I can't lay completely flat. Getting this wedge or a pillow or something to put underneath my knees has been really helpful in giving me some relief, but it's also not forcing my muscles to do all the work of holding my knees in that position. Icing is just a really good idea, heat and ice going back and forth. I recommend getting 2 good ice packs because you want to be able to cycle them through the freezer. So while you're laying on one, another one can be freezing, and I recommend that they lay kind of flat because you don't want to create another bump or bulge underneath you while you're trying to ice and get that relief as well. A long-handled shoe horn. This one's super fun yet again for a 32-year-old who can't tie her own shoes. I kindly have asked somebody to go through and tie my shoes to the perfect tightness so that way I can use this without actually bending down and getting on my own shoes. So I've saved myself a little bit of pride there, which is kind of nice. A laptop ventilation pad. If you're fortunate enough like me to be able to work from home every once in a while, do yourself a service and take care of your laptop as well as your legs while laying in a horizontal position. This makes sure that your laptop doesn't overheat, nor that you get burns on your legs. I hate this one, but prescription drugs go see your primary care. I should have done it way before I ever did, and I was just taking on little bits of each of the doctors of what they were kind of prescribing me throughout the process. And what I found was that while I was writhing in pain, I had nothing to take care of what was happening to me at a given time without going to the ER or something. So go to your primary care, let them walk you through all the things that are going to be able to help you, and let them give you an arsenal of things that you can have. You have to be smart when taking these prescription drugs, but it sucks when you can't sleep in the middle of the night and you are just in tears because you have nothing but Tylenol and ibuprofen that can't even touch the pain that you're experiencing. The other thing that goes with taking lots of pills is vitamins. I was told that benvoitamine, which is a B1 vitamin, is actually really good for cancer patients when they are experiencing nerve damage, and it helps repair. So I am preemptively taking benvoitamine because I can feel things are not right with my nerves, and if this is something that I can do proactively to prevent them from getting more damage than what I know is already happening, I'm gonna do it. Another one is taking magnesium, and I'm taking that because it's hard to use the bathroom when you're on so many pills. So find magnesium, take your prune juice, castor oil, whatever home remedy you want to try. On that same note, get a stool riser. Yet again, a pride thing for a 32-year-old, but it's hard to get up and down. So attach this to your toilet, and then you don't have to worry about whether you're going to spasm or not when you're trying to get on the toilet and use it. And last one for me is really personal, is that I cut my hair. It was getting caught underneath me and it hurt like heck. And so I made the decision to cut it off so it was easier for me to, one, maintain, and two, it was going to be less of a fight in order to help me manage my pain. So with all of that being said, truly good luck and Godspeed. This is not easy at all to go through. Trust me, I get it. I hope that my document can be a good resource for you to go through, as well as this video. And if you're curious to know a little bit more about what's happened with me and my journey, I'll take you back now to February 2023. To give you an idea of how active of a person I am, Omaha puts on a race that they call Trek Up the Tower. That's where crazy people like myself think it's a fun idea to race up 40 flights of stairs to the top of the First National Building. I made it in about 9 minutes, which I would say is pretty darn good. Shortly after that event, while I was working out, I felt like I tweaked my back, and that was one of the key parts of my downfalls because I didn't listen to my body when I felt that something was wrong. In early March, I made a trip back to Michigan in order to help out my parents. Both of them had very significant surgeries and they needed help. Neither of them could drive, let alone take themselves to the hospital for the surgery. So I did what any good kid would do, and I did spent some good time making meals, driving to the hospital, doing doctor's runs, getting prescriptions, whatever it took. They've taken care of me for all these years. Why couldn't I do this for them? Of course, I was happy to. Well, at the end of that very long week of taking care of them, of course, a beautiful Michigan blizzard sets in. It was 8 inches of extremely wet, heavy snow. In order for me to get on my plane the next day, though, I had to go dig out the car in order to get out. The problem was I strained my back even more by doing that shoveling, and it was fine in the moment, but the next morning, I ended up blacking out due to the pain. I stood up, my legs went straight out from underneath me. I had to army crawl in order to get down to my parents and even ask for help. I ended up in an ER in Michigan, and with a very large ER bill, a pat on the back saying, "Good luck, kid, you got a severe back strain." What I should have done by the time I made it back to Omaha was saw my primary care physician in order to get the radiology that I needed to be able to say, hey, it's a back strain, or better yet, it's a herniation that you need to have tended to. I had none of that. It was just symptoms, and I was told to take ibuprofen and some meloxicam and some other drugs in order to help with inflammation, and just to rest. You'd get better soon. April took forever to get here. I had to rely on everybody else to help me out, and I couldn't ride my horse. Well, I thought I was feeling a little bit better, and I forced myself to get back to work, and I started saddling my own horse because I'm stubborn, and I thought that was tough, Stubborn and tough are two very different things. I knew something was wrong because when I would bend over, I would get stuck and I couldn't lift myself back up into a vertical position. I had to roll to my knees and then rock back up in order to stand. Hello, something is wrong. I chose to ignore it, which is so stupid. If I would have done the imaging, that could have told us about the herniation, let alone I would have been in physical therapy that could have then possibly been at the forefront of my whole problem in the beginning, that I wouldn't be here now with the pain that I'm in, because maybe, just maybe, we'd have been able to get ahead of it in order to make the herniation go back in on its own. By the time June rolled around, I could certainly feel that my pain was getting a lot worse. I kept trying to ignore it, believing that I'm tough and that it would go away, but I could feel my friends around me getting uneasy because they knew something was wrong with me. The way I was moving, the way I was acting, but right, hear no evil, see no evil. Unfortunately, on June 21, I woke up and I pretty much couldn't walk. I had to take inches for steps, and I knew it was time to take myself to the urgent care. So I went and I finally got the x-rays, and the really frustrating part is that this is where the timestamp actually started. If I would have gotten those x-rays 3 months before, I would have been 3 months sooner into getting the diagnosis and everything done properly so I could have moved through the right channels. Regardless, I got the x-rays and I said, okay, what does this mean? And the gentleman said that it looked like I probably had a pinched nerve. In order to know fully what I had to now get an MRI. What's frustrating about that is that I had to wait 2 weeks before I could get the MRI that I needed, or that they needed, in order to tell me that I had a herniated disc and then move my care forward from there. Outside of all of that, my mom had to beg me not to ride my horse anymore. My friends stepped in, my sister stepped in, and they said, we will not help you if you don't help us help you by stepping back, taking it easy, and letting your body rest. That's not how I work as a person, but I knew I had to learn to re-love myself and work through this for my sake as much as all the people that I care about. July was a big month. I had to wait 2 weeks to get my MRI, and I was starting to get a little aggressive and agitated about why I wasn't healing and the process that seemed to be getting prolonged more than I would like. So in the meantime, I said, okay, if my MRI is this date, what do I need to do in the meantime in order to see this process through? The next step was to talk to the neurologist, and I will make the comment that the only reason I'm seeing neurologists over an orthopedic surgeon is the fact that I went to the clinic and they do neurology, and so that was the path that I went down. So there's my disclaimer there. I know nothing between the two other than that was the path that I ended up down, done. I didn't want to have to prolong this anymore. I had the date for the MRI and they said I'd have to talk to the neurologist. So I said, let me get on that guy's schedule because I didn't want to wait for the MRI to get done and then get scheduled perhaps 2 weeks later before I'd actually get to be seen by him in order to look at the results of the MRI. So shortly after the MRI, I met with my surgeon's PA and we saw the imaging for the first time. It revealed that I had a disc herniation between L5 and S1, and I was told that because of the size, it would likely need surgery. It was going to be 3 months before they could schedule me for surgery, and I was outraged. I'd already missed several trips already. I couldn't ride my horse. I had a trip to Italy that I was planning. There were concerts. I had to get back to work. I have a whole list of things that were on my to-do list, and a back surgery surely wasn't going to hold me up. Well, that's where my stubbornness kicks in, and your health does come first, so make concessions with that long before you even get into this situation. So the other part that was maddening about having to wait 3 months was, after some poking and prodding about why it was going to take so long to get me scheduled, was it's because that's insurance's timeline. And I can appreciate that because sometimes disc herniations can resolve themselves just given the time. But I had already been through 3 months and it hadn't been fixed. But the MRI and meeting with this physician's assistant in the surgeon's office was where my time stamp actually started. So all the things that I had done before, sure, great, but that doesn't matter for insurance. I had to start then and go 3 months from then before the surgery could happen. I was terrified. I didn't want surgery, but at least I had something to work towards. It was going to be September, and if nothing else, this could all be done and over with by then. So I said, what do I do in the meantime? Because 3 months is a long time. They said, do you want to do PT? I said, will it help me? And I got the because my bulge was so huge. Even they didn't quite believe that physical therapy was going to fix me through this process. Why would I spend the money to do physical therapy? But I also didn't want to take no for an answer. So I did my own research, and through talking through some friends, I got a referral to a chiropractor. I believe in chiropractors. I found out insurance doesn't love them, but that's neither here nor there. And I drove an hour away to a specialty chiropractor for 6 weeks, 3 days a week, to do decompression therapy. This is also called traction therapy. And basically, you get on a table and you get strapped in and it pulls you apart and it puts you back together. The science behind it made sense. I definitely recommend seeing a professional who's going to take their time with you and talk you through the process. When I was referred to this chiropractor, he talked me through, holy cow, your bulge is huge. I don't know that I can fix you, but we sure can try. And here's how and why. He showed me a bunch of different charts, showed me what I had, showed me what he's fixed before, and said, we're gonna give it a go. So when it comes to resetting the spine and doing the process of what your spine does in a day of getting decompressed at night and then compressed during the day in order to get it hydrated again, it all made sense. So I dedicated myself to doing this long drive 3 times a week for 6 weeks to get through it. And I greatly appreciate his expertise, and I'm so thankful that he took the time to talk me through all of this. The other thing I'll add is that in doing my own research, physical therapy may or may not be as effective as this, so I thought I was doing the right thing. I'll get into that story a little bit later as far as insurance and physical therapy and decompression therapy and stuff, because it's maddening because I was so dedicated in order to do this, and I was giving physical therapy exercises, including nerve flosses and several different exercises in order to help me get better without stepping into the surgical stage of this. So the other point that I will make in my July frame of reference is talk to nurses. They know who the best surgeons are, because if somebody is going to cut into you, you want to make sure it's a good one. And nurses are the ones who really take care of people. Doctors take care of people, surgeons take care of people, nurses take care of people. So let them be your point of reference to make sure that you found a good one. And luckily, haven't been able to use him yet, but I found out through a series of friends, without revealing the name of the surgeon that I've magically been paired with, that the surgeon that I'm hopefully going to be seeing sometime in my near future is going to be a good one, because he takes care of his patients and does a really good job. So as August came, I continued doing the decompression therapy with the chiropractor, and he highly recommended that I follow through with doing the epidurals. I'm not keen on doing these, but he swore by it that pain management was going to help hopefully allow my body to release any tension that it had on that herniation and maybe give it a chance of going back in. The problem there is that I hate needles. I had some pretty bad experiences as a kid and just not a fan, and the idea of a needle going into my back was horrendous. Make no mistake by the expression on my face in this picture, but I was not in a good place. I am now taking a Xanax in order to get the first epidural, because I had an all-out panic attack just the idea of imagining a needle going into my back. I was horrified. There was vomiting in the parking lot. I almost blacked out. I could barely breathe. It was pretty dramatic. I did thankfully make it through not one, but 2 epidurals. Unfortunately for me, I got little relief. The first one was okay, and the second one didn't really do anything. Well, that kind of put me in a not super great place because I could tell by my chiropractor's expression that I was not progressing like I needed to in order to try and mitigate surgery. So I'm very blessed that in the darker times of what was setting in, my yoga instructor stepped forward and actually offered to meditate with me. So once a week I was trying to work on my mental health because I was not okay, and frankly, I didn't want to be alive, which is very sad to say. The decompression failed, and the chiropractor very kindly said he didn't want to keep taking my money and that it was time to see about getting surgery. I had my follow-up appointment set with the surgeon's office, met with the surgeon, and he said that I did indeed need surgery. So they went ahead and got me on the books for the end of September. What I also found out through this insurance process is that it takes 3 weeks to do a turnaround to get a pre-authorization. I didn't think anything was wrong because I had done 6 weeks of decompression therapy. I tried 2 epidurals, nothing had worked. My case actually went back to March of the previous year. Surely I was going to get the surgery that I needed. It's now September, and even though I don't want to do the surgery, I have a date set and this hell is about to end. So I got my FMLA set up, I got all my projects through work offloaded, I scheduled for my mom to be able to come out and help me through this surgery because, you know, it's her turn now. But it was very funny because I got a communication that was pretty vague saying that I had been partially approved or partially denied for my surgery, and I thought that was kind of funny, and I made jokes that, oh, so are they gonna cut me open and not sew me up, or how does that work? But I hadn't gotten any phone calls from the surgeon's office or anything like that, so I wasn't too worried, and I figured there was still a couple weeks buffer in there to kind of work it out. 1 week before I was supposed to get the surgery, I started getting super nervous because there was no resolution. I hadn't actually heard, yes, here's the time that you need to show up for your surgery. And this was my hope. Like, I've been going through this for 7 months. I've been waiting for this date in September so I could move on with my life and work towards getting it back. Well, that week kind of turned pretty dark when quite officially I was denied, and I was frantically trying to figure out what was going on with all of this. And when I called the insurance company, I was told that I was approved for them to be able to use a microscope, but the surgeon couldn't actually perform the surgery. So tell me how that makes sense. So I was denied really for the full surgery, and the next step was for there to be a peer-to-peer review with the surgeon and a doctor through the insurance company. So they scheduled a thing, they talked. The insurance doctor did not believe that he had enough information to make a good decision about whether this was medically necessary or not, and we had to provide more details. So I went on the ground and I made calls to both of my chiropractors, the one from decompression and the one I was seeing prior to that. I talked to my pain specialist, getting his background on that. And I was trying to find any documentation I could to prove that this had been a long-running problem for me and that I needed this surgery. Basically, what I was told was that I hadn't done physical therapy with an actual physical therapist, and therefore I needed to try that before my conservative means checkbox could be met. Decompression therapy for 6 weeks, 2 epidurals, doing physical therapy with a board-certified physiotherapist apparently was not good enough. So the other part that's really frustrating with all these details that I was finding out and trying to fight for myself was that the insurance company thought that the doctor's office was going to call them, and they had notes saying that the insurance company was going to call them on Friday before my case closed on getting this appeal done. Nobody picked up the phone. And to this day, I cannot tell you how, I don't even have words, because it could have been solved in that. Maybe it wouldn't have been, but I sure would have liked to have known that that box was checked as well. So my case was closed. There was nothing to be said. I was denied twice through that of the appeal process of getting the surgery that I needed, and I figured I was going to continue to fight just a little bit more, and I set up an appointment with an actual physical therapist. If that was going to make them happy, I would do that and get seen just to see if that could make a difference for me to keep my surgery for the following week. The PT guy was put in a very bad position because I was so distraught, and frankly, I think he knew that I was put in a pretty bad predicament from what the insurance company was doing to me. He wrote a letter on my behalf, but insurance would not take it because my case was closed. Sorry, good luck, kid. You got to do 6 weeks of physical therapy before we'll reconsider you to get the surgery. I'll take a deep breath there, because the anger that causes me, and how long I've been going through this journey, and how hard I've fought in order to get better and to get back with my life. And it's a sorry, good luck, kid. It's only 6 more weeks. That is so hard to hear when you've been in so much excruciating pain. 4 medical professionals had told me that my bulge was too big and I needed to have surgery. Yet for some reason, insurance would not allow me or their voices to be heard, and now I have to play their game in order to be maybe fixed at some point in the future. And that is so hard to work for when you don't have a date anymore in mind to kind of keep goals and focus for your future ahead. The last thing I'll say is, after I got denied and I fell into a pretty bad wreck, both psychologically and physically, because everything hurt so bad and I've been holding out for so long, was I finally met with my primary care doctor to ask for drugs. And I didn't want narcotics sitting in my cupboard. I thought, I'm gonna tough it out because it's just gotta get me through September. I don't wanna get addicted. You'd think that a privatized healthcare system might respect me for not wanting to do this. But apparently, by not having yet more documentation saying that her life is pretty bad, she has to take narcotics in order to manage her pain, that wasn't in my chart, so that started after I got denied. Perhaps the funniest thing about all of this is that I actually work for an insurance company. Now, I debate on whether to disclose that or not, but I do think it's important. I make pretty videos. I don't do customer service. But when I say advocate for yourself, it's because I work in a building full of 1,000 other people, and they're good people. So treating them kindly is something that I don't take lightly, and they do care about helping people like me and you get through their health conditions. And unfortunately, we're just in a messed up medical system, and we have to fight regardless. It's not right, but it's the way that things are. And I'll also say that being stubborn can be an asset, but it can get in the way of your recovery. Listen to medical instruction. Take a break. Listen to your body. Limit yourself if you have to, because if you just keep pushing through it and ignoring stuff, you could be 7 months in and not have any resolution. I also would say build a support network. It might be a little shocking, but I'm a little bit of a talker. And it's hard to not share your experience, because that's what I've been living for the past 7 months. And when you go into every single restaurant and you have to ask for a high top, or just simply stand at the table with all of your friends because your body won't let you sit, it's going to raise some questions. And then it's going to have some more conversation with people to find out that I am not the only one in my situation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are going through what I'm going through, and that's why I'm making this video, because I'm hoping that by sharing my story, it might be able to help somebody navigate their situation a little bit faster than what I've had to. You have to stay positive, that's another thing. And building a good support group of people who love you, being around you, and somebody who will take you out to see your horse to play My Little Pony doesn't hurt either. Last but not least, my journey isn't over. This situation has totally sucked, and I hope to be able to update you with a lot more of a positive outcome while I'm on the mend. So I hope that you don't ever have to experience what I'm experiencing, but know that if you do, you're not alone, and I hope that this can make you get through your steps a lot faster than what I've had to. Good luck.